get some high heels, Dana. Actually, I think it's kind of hard to pinpoint what it is in your life that makes it flow well. But there are three fundamental principles that when I step back and look at myself objectively, I think have made a big difference and they are major contributors to my success. So that's what I want to share with you. So the first is from a Bible verse that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I've been blessed that that's been a part of my belief system ever since I was a kid. There was another Bible verse in which Jesus was talking to the disciples, and he said, if you had the faith as a grain of mustard seed, you could tell the mountain to move from here to there, and the mountain would move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Now, as a kid, I just thought that that was saying what Jesus could do. As an adult, I said, I think Jesus meant what he said. And if I can believe it, I can do it. And that, of course, is the biggest challenge. Can we believe that something that seems to be impossible is doable? So I want to give two examples from my life. The first one is that I could never bring myself to believe that I could downhill ski. I couldn't even get out of the lift without falling. And my daughter and husband are here to vouch for the fact that I never did master skiing. On the other hand, I believed that I could bend a spoon using my mind, and I believed that I could walk on a long pit of hot coals without burning my feet, and I was able to do both of those. So what's the difference? Believing that something is possible. The second fundamental belief that has served me well in my life, I think Thomas Edison says very well, which is there's no substitute for hard work. And Thomas Jefferson puts a little different spin on it, which is I'm a great believer in luck, but I found that the harder I work, the more of it I have. So it has worked very well for me to work hard, and when I look back at what is work, all of us have some kind of work in this room, but that is a way that we on the planet are being of service and providing a product or something else to someone else. So it's an example of how what we put out comes back to us in kind. Now, the third fundamental belief is that all the good in my life comes from God, and that I want to show appreciation for that, and that a very easy way for me to do that is through tithing. And that means giving 10% of my income to the church. So my belief system is that you give back to God from the very top of what you get, and that you do it through the church where your soul is fed as part of the ministry. Now, I know that some people think tithing is optional, and others think it's okay to give God 10% after you've paid your taxes, meaning it would come from your gross income instead of your net, or no, your net income instead of your gross. I know other people who say, I'm going to pay my biggest bills, of course, I've got to be responsible, so I'll pay my mortgage, my rent, groceries, utility bills, and then whatever's left over is where I give money to the church. That wouldn't work for me, because I believe that there is a fundamental, universal law in effect. And whether you believe it or not, it's true. So for instance, think about gravity. Somebody says, sorry, I don't believe in gravity. Well, when they step off that 20-story building, chances are, they're going to drop. I believe that the same thing exists with tithing. You don't believe it? Oops, there are consequences when you don't. For me, it's a way of saying, God gives me so much, and all that he's asking is that I say thank you and show my gratitude by 10%. That's 1 penny out of a dime, 10 cents out of a dollar, $1 out of 10, $10 out of $100. Now, I'll admit that it's very easy for me to tithe because I grew up with that principle. I was born, many of you know, I was part of a fundamentalist Baptist church. When the laws and the principles were taught from the podium, we pretty much accepted them until you get to be an adult, and then you can choose for yourself. Well, so from the very first income I had was 35 cents allowance every 2 weeks. I think I was 12 or 13. So I did the calculations, and I said, well, I can't give 3.5 cents because we didn't have half pennies. I could round it up to 4 cents. I go, no, I like the idea of a nickel. So I can't tell you how excited I was every Sunday, or every 2 Sundays, to put my nickel in the offering plate. I mean, it just filled me with joy. And I still feel that way about writing my tithing check and putting my donation in a church now. But there was an even stronger stronger example of the power of tithing in my life as a kid. So my father was a very hard worker, and yet he was employed either by Diamond Shamrock or the railroads, and frequently he would get laid off. There wasn't enough work. So there was this time when Daddy had been unemployed for a long time, and Mom and Dad sat down with my brother and me. There were only two of us at that point, so that says I had to be like no more than 8 years old. And it was a Sunday morning, and they said, okay, we've got a problem. We only have $1 left, and we're out of most of the groceries, other than like canned goods that we always put up from our gardens. And they said, so we can either spend that dollar to buy bread and potatoes, or we can put that dollar in the offering basket. And we as a family collectively said, we think it would be good to give our very last dollar, give all of it to God. That afternoon, my dad got a phone call from somebody that he didn't even know, asking if he would be willing to pick peaches from their nursery. That's one of their employees couldn't help them. So my dad started to work that next Monday and had the regular income. So I feel very blessed to have seen the positive result of tithing in action immediately. Now, there are people who look at Larry's in my house, or they see the car he drives to church, or they know that the good jobs that we've had, and they say, oh yeah, it's easy for you to tithe because you have so much. So, what's 10% when you have all that you have? And I'm here to tell you that the reason why we have what we have, the reason why I feel I have been so blessed, is because I know where it comes from, and it gives me great joy, and allows me to express my love by just giving 10% of it right off the top back to God.
And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Joe Murphy.
Namaste, good morning. Pleasure to be with you. It's also a little uncomfortable, having never done this before, but thank you for welcoming me into the community today. When Dana asked me to share my thoughts on tithing and contributing to the church, I really had to step back and say it's not about me, it's about Cindy and I as we make these choices consciously and together. So I speak for both of us this morning. We believe in three big premises that help us think about our life, what's important to us, and how we interact with it. The first one is the law of reciprocity, which says we must give to receive. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive, but I think it's a little bit different. I think it's give, and give of your talents. And the parable of the talents is one that we can take a great lesson from. The master had given three of his servants, his household members, resources to work with. And they each used them in different ways. Some getting a big return, some actually just doing nothing with it. We can study that to learn about our own life. We all have talents, something we can use to get a return on. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. The second is what we focus on expands. Our attention makes things grow, expand, become more real. So we have to think a little bit about how our attention on our financial life, on our spiritual life, on our social life helps that expand and now come into play as well. And the third premise that we use in our life is that money is a form of energy. And we use that money to bring energy in and to let energy flow out of our lives. So we'll talk a little bit about how that may affect the way we think about our relationship with the spiritual community. Let's go back to reciprocity. George Bernard Shaw has a great quote that my father loved, and I embrace it as well. When I die, I want to be all used up. And that, as its essence, says, what are we doing to use the talents that we have, to give fully, to throw ourselves into life, to be exuberant, and find the joy in all we do. And finding joy in all we do is a guiding principle of what we throw our energy into, how we use ourselves. And participating in this community brings Cindy and I a great deal of joy. It rewards us, it fulfills us. And as such, it makes us think about how we can give back to it. together, and lives that have blossomed, have grown, the attraction we have, put out into the community, new members, new people coming to just see what we have going on here, because it is something special. And it makes us say, what can we do to do more of that, to touch more lives, to be more joy in the lives of other people who touch our community. The third principle, or premise we talk about, is money is energy. And I'll present it to you this way. We pay our electric bill to bring energy into our physical home. And what joy is in doing that? I know I enjoy having lights to turn on, and a furnace to keep my home warm, and fans to cool me, things like that, music to be played. It's a nice amount of joy, but what do we pay in terms of putting energy into that which feeds our spiritual house? It's another way of calibrating and saying, at what level of joy, of life, revivifying value is my spiritual community versus my electrical community? It's a nice way to just kind of compare and contrast, but it also causes us to stop and say, what are the principal areas in which we exchange money for joy? It could be your cable TV bill that you enjoy really watching, entertainment or news. It could be around the golf. What do I pay for golf in the course of a week, a month? And how does that relate to the spiritual nutrition that I get from participating in this community? Dinner, out. Even sometimes the amount that we compensate a server who serves the needs of our physical body for only a few moments. But what do we contribute to a spiritual server? A community that serves our soul for our life, enriching and revivifying our souls, our attitude towards how we embrace the life experience, and how we reach out and become more effective human beings. Over the last 3.5, 4 years, Cindy and I have really looked at how we channel our resources and what's important to us. And right now, the three most important contributions that we make to joy in our life is, one, our home. We enjoy it. It's our physical home. It's a place we spend a great deal of time. We'd like to spend more time when we are pretty active. The second thing we contribute to generously is college tuition for our children. We're going to graduate 3 this year, which will be a nice gift to their future, to their well-being. We're truly transforming their lives through our consciousness of love. And then the third biggest area we make a contribution to is this community, because we see this as one of the most important and one of the most valuable experiences in our lives in terms of what we're able to get out of it, how it helps us look at the way we interact with the world, continues to give us messages, not only from Reverend Dana, but from the music we receive, from the broad range of volunteers who participate. We're honored to be here, and we're honored to give back. And so I ask you to think about what brings the most joy in your life, and what should be one of the highest priorities in your life relative to the other things you use that energy and money to stimulate, attract, and bring joy into your life. Think about this community. Think about a way you can channel some of your energy by giving, and as a result, allowing yourself to receive on a holy level. Cindy and I have known more abundance in the last 4 years than we have ever known it before in our lives. We invite you to explore and experiment and see if that same thing would be true for you. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your time to hear my message. I look forward to seeing you all next week on your